Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Caitlin Frank with Crossfuze, and I am so excited to welcome you to today's webinar, ServiceNow in Action, How a Farm Credit Organization Empowers Employees to Delight Their Customers. Today, we have a really exciting opportunity to listen in as Chris Howard, the CEO of Crossfuze, sits down for a really informal one-on-one chat with Fred Gordon, the AVP of Business Applications at Farm Credit Mid-America. I'm really excited about our format today. There's no slides, no death by PowerPoint. It'll just be a conversation between Chris and Fred as they really dive into the interesting perspective of this farm credit organization and how they have taken ServiceNow, really embraced it as their platform to facilitate the rest of their business. We do welcome any questions throughout the conversation. Just submit them in the Q&A chat at the bottom of your screen. We will answer them at the end of the discussion. We'll have Chris and Fred hanging around to answer those. So submit them as you think of them, or wait till the end and submit them then as well. That's just fine. This session is recorded, so you'll all receive a link to watch it on demand after the fact if you're not able to stay for the whole thing, or if there's anything you missed, or if you want to share it with any colleagues as well. So we'll have that opportunity for you. With that, I will hand it off to Chris Howard, who will take care of you from here. Thanks, everyone.
Well, welcome, everybody. I'm excited about our conversation with Farm Credit Mid-America today. And I'm Chris Howard, CEO of Crossfuze, and I'm the questioner, so I don't have the hard job today. I'm gonna speak with Fred Gordon, and Fred's got all the work to do. So, Fred, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, thanks, Chris. My name is Fred Gordon. I am Assistant Vice President of one of our business applications team with Farm Credit Mid-America. I've been with Farm Credit for about 25 years, and I worked in IT for all of those years in various departments, and I'm happy to say I've been in my current position for about 2 years now.
That's great. That's a far-reaching portfolio. You know, I think for context setting for our audience, it'd be really helpful if you could give a really sort of high-level picture of Farm Credit in the business that you're in and and the customers that you serve. I think that would help people get a perspective on the work that we're going to talk about.
Absolutely. So Farm Credit Mid-America is a financial services cooperative, and we serve the credit needs of farmers and rural residents across Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and Tennessee. We have about 80,000 customers, and specifically we provide loans, real estate, operating equipment, housing, and related services. Some of these services include crop insurance and vehicle and equipment needs, as well as building leases.
Wow, that's an interesting portfolio. So squarely in the financial services space, but with a very distinctive clientele and portfolio of capabilities that you need to be able to provide to them. That's a really interesting dynamic in the marketplace, a really interesting niche. What led you guys to, so 2020 was when you started with the ServiceNow journey. What took you to ServiceNow as a potential solution? What business problem outcome were you striving to chase in terms of business improvement?
Yeah, so we were primarily looking at how do we support our customers, and we started in our IT area, and we looked at just needs that we have. And before we even started looking at any tools or anything, we knew we need to recognize what do we want to do and what do we want to do better, and create the why and solve for and understand the why behind it. So overall, in working with our stakeholders, we just started coming up with, okay, what do our customers need? And so when we look at our particular customers and how do we service and in service management, so our support teams in our Louisville, Kentucky headquarters provide IT, business process, and financial and legal support for our retail offices in these 4 states. So we went to them and looking at what do we need to do to serve you better in the service management area. And so coming up with that, we started working with our support teams and trying to understand what we needed to do. Now, of course, we already had an ITSM platform that we were using, and we just started there and trying to understand how do we get better in those areas. And overall, when we start breaking this down, we started looking at information we were giving out. So our customers in our retail offices, and when I speak to customers, Chris, I'm speaking towards our teammates that's in these retail officers. They serve our ultimate customers, and of course, our job as a support teams in service management is to provide them the support to serve these customers. So our retail office teammates, we went to them and just asked them, how are we providing the support and what could it be better? And what we found was each area was doing their best to provide support, but the problem was sometimes that information was disjointed. You would get one answer, but even amongst the teams, you knew you would get a different answer in some different areas, and it wasn't that, it was something that the teams were doing wrong, but it's just the flow of information and how it was given out and the team's inability to organize that information. So we knew we wanted to solve for that. And then we started looking at, so what are our processes behind to solve for this? And so as we deconstructed those processes and worked with these teams, we found that, as you brought on a new team member, how were they learning? How were they getting up to speed? And how are they getting that information out and getting it back out? And we started looking at processes to solve for that. So we started breaking it down and just going into ITIL processes, KCS processes, knowledge-centered service processes, and seeing how can we use these processes and methodologies to better serve our retail teammates. So once we flushed all that out and we got all that together and understood what we wanted to do and understood our why and our problems, that's when we finally start looking at, hey, can our tool help us do this? And then when we moved on from there and worked there, we started understanding, like, maybe we need a different tool to help us get there. So that's how we started moving forward. We understood what we need to solve for, and then we move forward in what tools can help us solve.
That's really interesting, Fred. So let me see if I heard you properly, and I can deconstruct the information you just provided. Sounds like to me you reached out to the people on the front lines and basically asked them, what's your day-to-day challenge in delivering delightful service to our end customer, the people that we provide financial services to, and to help them produce the outputs that they need for their businesses. What are the core ingredients of providing that great customer experience from that perspective, and what are all the bits and pieces of information that go into you being able to provide that in an effective manner, and where are the information flow breakdowns, where are the workflow breakdowns, where are the process flow breakdowns that don't provide a as frictionless as possible way for you to do your job and have a great employee experience that can provide a delightful customer experience. Did I get that part right?
No, absolutely, that's right. And looking for that and making sure that that's a seamless experience for them. So, and solving for that was really just making sure that we understood what they were seeing, what they were experiencing on that end, and taking that feedback and then moving forward. And I really want to harp on that. You can't solve a problem by buying a tool first. You need to understand what you're trying to solve for, and then what you have, what are you doing currently, and what can make that better. And that's when it started really making sense, like we needed to, what we needed to do.
Right. So there's got to be a bunch of systems that are sort of the core data repositories, systems of record for the business that you've got to be able to provide easy access to those systems for your colleagues in the retail operations to do their job effectively. And it sounds like is that where the hunt began in terms of, okay, I understand their points of pain, and I understand these systems of record, and now I've got to find a way to connect those dots?
Right, and connecting the dots, meaning that we needed to understand how they needed to get their information that they needed to move forward and do their and help our customers, our end customers, and how they needed that information delivered to them. And we're looking at on the service management piece of it. So they can actually get to system of records and things like that, but when they needed information or answers to, or IT side, or getting things corrected and fixed so they can move forward, what was the best way for us to get them that information in an organized manner and be able to bring that information back up when needed again, so we can continuously help them if needed. So if someone is calling about something, how do we document that? Everyone knows this is what's going on, so we can get that person that help right away.
So you created a very compelling problem statement. I'm assuming the next step might have been, with that problem statement, what are my key metrics and measurements that tell me sort of what my current state is, and what I need to get to be able to demonstrate that I've made those improvements. Can you talk a little bit about sort of that measurement criteria?
Right. So that's another key thing too. Being able to measure how you're doing and what you're doing, that's the only thing that's really going to help you move forward to make things to improve your processes, and to improve how you're delivering that customer experience, is knowing exactly what you're doing, as you're doing it. So that was another thing we needed to solve for also, because of course we had tools in place that we were living, service management to our teammates. We had tools in place to do that. But what we found that we were missing, and after talking with our teammates, we didn't know how to measure how we were delivering and how we were doing. We didn't have really a good way of doing that. Of course, you can look at like, okay, this is how many calls have came in, this is how many tickets we've taken, this is what we've done. But what does all that mean, and being able to do that? So as we started looking at the why behind what we needed to do, we started recognizing that, hey, you know what? One of the key components of this is we need robust reporting. And I know you can have reporting, but if you don't have the reporting that you need to really show you exactly what you're doing, so you can look at this data and make sense of the data, when you have it, and to see exactly what you're doing, that, we needed something to help us there. So we knew that was one of our main objectives. And at the the front end of that also is the scalability piece of it. Knowing like, okay, as we move forward and we get better with what we're doing, and how we're delivering, or not even better, it's as we mature in what we're doing, we need something that's going to scale with us also. It's going to be able to allow us to move forward and scale with us, and allow us to make the changes needed to move with our business. So those were like really two key ingredients that we were looking towards. And also, of course, integration, being able to, because you're not just using one tool out there, you're using several different tools, and the ability to integrate when needed, and pull data in, or be able to be able to tie processes together if you need to. That was another thing we were looking at also. So it was kind of our key ingredients there. And of course, like I said before, is supporting our methodologies, that we were using, knowledge-centered service and ITIL practices. So that is like the support culture that we envision, and using the feedback that we got from our teammates on how how we can improve our customer experience.
And when you talk about scalability, Fred, was the scalability notion not just in terms of the growing business requirements within the framework of which the service management framework within IT that you're looking at, but were you looking at service management as a construct that could go across multiple parts of the business, beyond IT, or is that is that something you might be pursuing in the future?
Well, I think when we started off, it kind of started with just that high level IT service management framework of, hey, how do we deliver a better experience? However, once we started moving forward, it did grow to that, like, okay, how does that move out? So things like change management, and things like how does that expand out and get to where it expands beyond and moves more into a enterprise level of this scalability and tying things together and seeing the entire picture of what's going on. And that has to deal with, change management, like I said, CMDB, just different things there to tie in back to, hey, how are we doing overall, and tying that back to service, using service management as almost like another view into your business and seeing what's going on. And that integration ties in also as you bring in other tool sets. How do you tie that in? Are you able to integrate in service management into that and actually get that better view of exactly what's going on, exactly how you're doing, and what you're doing within those areas?
So you've got great problem statement. You've got some measurement criteria that you're thinking about. How did you go? Tell us a little bit about your evaluation process about going out and you ended up selecting ServiceNow, but tell us a little bit about how you got to the place. What was the process and the steps you went through to make that determination that ServiceNow was the right platform for you to take on this challenge?
Yeah, so after we documented that, okay, this is what we're solving for and this is the why behind it, we really just started looking at, okay, what are we doing now and can we improve that? So we looked there first. And then after we looked there, we realized that, we need to do something else for us to get better, And then we started looking at what was out there, to allow us to do that. And of course, you do your due diligence and you want to make sure that you're doing the right, that you're looking at everything you need to look at. And because we knew what we wanted and we had vetted and knew, it just made sense at that point. When we start looking at things, it tied right in. One of the biggest factors is just the scalability. The ServiceNow had the ITIL principles built in, to follow what we needed to do, and knowledge-centered service really built in was a key factor too, in following those methods. And specifically in our journey, we were really keen on knowledge-centered service and being able to use that. We were using that because that methodology you can use regardless of tools,
Right.
And so we were really using that and moving forward with that. And then as we start looking at tools, ServiceNow actually had all those concepts built in already, which made it really easy for us to really expand how we were using it and what we were doing with it. So it kind of fell in place and really worked for us in that aspect of it when we implemented the ITSM module.
So you found a platform that you felt aligned with both capability, but most importantly, your philosophy about how you wanted to manage your business going forward from a methods and process perspective. So there was great synergy there. Talk to me a little bit about, selfishly, I'd love to hear about Crossfuze, but more, at a higher level, sort of what you were looking for in a partner and what you sort of the the partner's role in all of this for Farm Credit versus the technology ServiceNow, which is the platform's role in all of this, which is how you're going to get things done. But the partner is going to help you get to supposedly the promised land of where you're seeking to achieve.
Oh yeah. So as you know, like ServiceNow is a dynamic platform. I mean, it could do like so much, and you know, and when we were looking for a partner, you know, we value experience, expertise, and trust. And so, with a platform like ServiceNow, it's so dynamic. Having a partner to go along with you when making those decisions, or even just bouncing questions off of, you're really going to see your value in using the tool, you know, and because it is such a dynamic platform, when you're, you know, if you have a partner such as a Crossfuze with the experience and expertise and someone that you can build a relationship with, it really helps you find that value in the platform. So so yeah, it's been you know, and that's what we were looking for. We weren't really we looking for someone not only just to help us make those decisions and implementation and getting the product up and running and using, but someone you can build a relationship with, to have that trust to allow you to get the value out of that tool, you know, because in some instance where it's like, wow, this looks cool, we want to do this, you know, but having that partner to talk through it, like, okay, so what are we trying to do, or what do you want to do with it? It gets you in that mindset, like, okay, that really sounds good, but maybe we should wait for this and recognize the value, you know, in this other aspect of it, just to get the most you can get out of the tool.
So we find out, we do discovery about requirements. We find out the why. We find what we think is a really good match to solving for the why and doing it in a way that's aligned with our methods and processes. We find a partner that we think has the kind of expertise and who's going to help us maximize value. And tell us a little bit about the process of getting your organization on board with this change. And because you talked about how you reached out to your retail partners, but now you're gonna do something different and ask them to embrace something different going forward. What was that whole story? What was that journey like for Farm Credit and for you?
Well, I tell you, what we discovered. Well, I was going to say discovered, but we had our stakeholders along from the beginning. So it was when we start talking about this, it was the conversation wasn't had in just a silo or just amongst the IT department. It was had with the stakeholders, using the tool to support our customers, you know, and we start having those conversations and listening with them on what we needed to do. So when I told you about the why and discovering like what we needed to do, all those conversations were had with the stakeholders involved. So they were along for the journey. So it was buy-in from the beginning, you know. So it was, and that made things really an easy sell. And actually, as they saw the value, was perfect because they saw the value. So now they're actually seeing for themselves, and we were able to discover that along with our stakeholders. So I think that, you know, we discovered like having your stakeholders along in the beginning, you know, and involve them early and often in the decisioning, allows you all to see that value together. And then as you start moving through the processes, you know, talking with different leaders throughout the organization, it's telling that story together with your stakeholders on why, you know, on the value that we're looking towards, and what the tool and platform can do for our organization.
So we've asked for your input. We've told you how we've done our discovery. We've made sure that you see the road that we're going down. So now that you've gone down the road, you're up and running. The world's changed how has the world changed for those frontline workers? And again, how do you have any sort of harder statistics around, you know, value contribution to the company for making this investment?
Oh yeah, I mean, so as far as the change, it's been. I had one leader, actually, one of our support leaders for our business process team. She made the comment that there's probably no way we could have done the things that we've done in the past 2 years if we hadn't made the decision to go to ServiceNow. And then we started talking about some more, and we both decided, like, well, there is no way we could have done what we've done, you know, without the decision to go to ServiceNow, because we were able to really be in a position where we can provide the support for our teammates and take that information and build on processes to allow us to make decisions on what we needed to do to move further. And that's all through being able um, to provide that support in the way that they need it, and at the speed that they needed it too. So if you look at it, we were able to utilize ServiceNow to not only break down information silos, and give or be confident that our teammates were receiving consistent, dependable information, that they needed to do their jobs and provide the service to our customers. So, and we weren't able to do that before with some of the tools, although we had processes in place and our processes, and we matured and made sure our processes were good. Once we got a tool that helped us move that forward, it really put us in position to move at the speed that we need to move. And even being able to bring on new employees, they were able to really get up to speed quicker using the KCS process fueled by ServiceNow to be able to bring up knowledge articles and get them out there and learn what they need to do for their jobs to help our teammates, in a efficient, timely manner. So yeah, it really changed on how we deliver service management across our enterprise, and it's been a great experience, great experience, and we were confident with our decision to go with ServiceNow, and we knew what we needed, that this was going to solve our some of the objectives that we had for it, but we were also really pleased as we start moving forward that we were able to do even more that we didn't know that we were going to be able to do as we dove into workflows and things like that. So not only were we able to solve for our objectives and knew that we can use a tool to work within our processes, we were able to expand and improve processes at the same time. So it made it even better. So
newly discovered value, I guess, is the right way to describe that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So 2 years in, made some bunch of change. Sounds like big efficiency and productivity improvements, taking friction out of the system, which is always very valuable, and unlocked a whole bunch of potential of service improvement because of the platform and because of the way that you've approached as you describe it, the challenge of the why. What's next at Firm Credit and for Fred and team around the platform?
So we are really looking towards just moving forward and improving across the board different things we've done with the ITSM module, and bringing on other areas of the business in too. So one of the things we're looking to do is improve change management. We're really using that. We've revamped our change management. We have a team dedicated towards it, working within ServiceNow and our change management system, and it's like leaps and bounds that we've moved forward with that. We're integrating, we have CMDB up in our environment and working with that. We're tying together business applications and processes all together to see the full footprint of everything we have out there. And it's really nice because as now you think about change management, we see exactly what change is affecting as it is going across, and it's really a great gateway that we're using from. If you think about it, one of our service support teams takes a ticket in now, we can absolutely through CMDB know exactly what systems are affected all the way down through, through the whole enterprise, and understand what's going on. So we're really excited about that as we continue expanding that. Um, Knowledge-centered service, we are really moving forward with that and expanding that we started within our service management support team area. This is now expanded to the enterprise level within our organization. So really, really excited about that. So we have big plans there, and moving forward there. We're moving to an area where with also with knowledge, your shift left theories, tier 0, self-serve, out there forward facing for our teammates to self-serve themselves. That's really taken off and working to really get that value. Because when you look at, I know we talked a little bit like proving like the value of realize the value of, of this initiative. One of the things, is tricky at times is like, how do you understand, the ROI, with this,
Right.
What do you do? How do you say like, hey, we bought this, how's this helping us? What's the, what's the return on investment here? Well, if we can get our teammates in our retail offices if they're having an issue, if we can get the faster we get them back going, they can help our customers. So that's going to help our bottom line. So what we're doing is looking at ways with service management. How do we do that? How you deliver that value and get that there so we can help that bottom line. And so all the things I'm talking about here is really towards that, using the platform and the tools to get that out there, like getting our customers, our teammates in a position where they can help our customers and get going. So the quicker we get them back going, they can help our customers. So those are the things that we're looking for going down the road, is really improving that, and then expanding out from. We talked about this a little bit, expanding out from the IT side of things. We have our financial operations team. We actually purchased the financial services module of ServiceNow, and we're in the process of implementing that now with them, working with Crossfuze with that. And that's our next step with our within our support teams, are getting them up and going with ServiceNow. And we're even expanding to, we're looking at some GRC tooling with ServiceNow. We're looking at that area and getting just really looking at tying it all together, GRC, some vendor management and things like that. So that's how we're really expanding out beyond IT and getting other areas going. Even our facilities departments, bringing them in too.
Right. Taking advantage of the platform and the breadth and depth of the platform to as you say, leverage the investment you've made to maximize the return that's possible for farm credit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, this has been really interesting, Fred. There's a lot of ground that you covered. I know I think there's some questions in the chat that have been posed, and I'm sure there's some of our audience might have some other questions. So why don't we pause there and see what questions we can take?
All right, guys, thank you so much. That was a really engaging discussion. You covered a lot of ground in just 30 minutes. That's really, really impressive. For everybody that's on the call, we'd love to take some questions, and hopefully Fred's prepared to answer some of them. I see there's a couple already in the Q&A, but for those of you who are maybe not quite familiar with the interface, there should be a Q&A box on your screen. Go ahead, submit whatever questions you have, and we have Chris and Fred sticking around to help answer them. So Chris, there's a few questions there for you if you want to grab some of those and run with it.
Sure. Thanks, Caitlin. Thanks, Fred. That was great conversation. We talked a little bit about you did a lot of work to build stakeholder engagement and stakeholder buy-in to what you were trying to get done. One thing we didn't cover that I probably should have asked while we were having that conversation was about training and getting your customer your colleagues sort of comfortable with the platform and the tool itself. What observations would you have about training and lessons learned and things others should be thinking about as they're implementing ServiceNow as a new platform within their working environments?
Yeah, Chris, thanks. So, yeah, having the stakeholders involved early and often kind of gets them that kind of first look and seeing what's going on. So when we started looking at training, they were already kind of excited and familiar. So we really partnered with them on the training and actually had them help us create training plans and ideals. And we even, to some extent, brought in and consulted with our actual training department to kind of help us with that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that even our partner, our vendor partners help us with too, is kind of creating that and what that looks like. And it's all kind of with your stakeholders involved early. They get a feel for what does that training look like, how much training would they need to do, and you kind of work with that together. And so the great thing about having them involved early and often, it's not like this just surprise, like, okay, it's a new tool, now we need to learn this. They know it's coming. And with them helping create that training, you kind of key on the areas that they need to key on to have a great transition into the tool.
Cool. There's some good, really best practices there that you just articulated that I hope people were picking up. One of the other questions that we had in place was about, adapting to new developments within the ServiceNow platform. You talked about how you're seeing it as a potential enterprise service management construct to take to other parts of the business. But this question goes to specific things like performance analytics, virtual agent, predictive intelligence. Have you started to think about or explore any of those capabilities in terms of how they might help the organization leverage the platform more effectively?
Oh yeah, so we're actually using performance analytics and predictive intelligence right now, and that really, and how we kind of move to that areas, and that's once again working with your partner to kind of help you help you with that. So first starting off, like we were talking about, it's a dynamic tool. So if you have all this stuff from the start, it's kind of not efficient to try to do everything at one time. So, but you have these tools out there, and as you grow with it and you kind of learn, and your teams are like diving into this, you start looking at, okay, this is how the teams are using the tool. What else can we do to help with this? And that's how we started with performance analytics and looking at things. And as we grew and grew more data and got more data into the system, we were able to take that and see trending and different things like that. So it was a nice feature to go back to our stakeholders, say, hey, we've been using the tool for 3 or 4 months now. Look at the data that we're pulling in and look at the trending that we're using. So, and this is another feature we're using, performance analytics. And even with something like virtual agent, we actually right now are start talking about using virtual agent, as far as helping our customers. When we talked about that kind of tier 0 shift left, method. So within our self-service portals, we're implementing our virtual agent to actually pull up those knowledge articles, as they're searching for them, as they're searching for help in there, to help with that. So as sort of things that you kind of move towards. And once again, vendors, like a Crossfuze, really helped us get there, kind of help us see the value, the time value in releasing and moving towards some of these other features within the tool.
That's great stuff. Thanks for that. Looks like we're running out of questions, and I guess we're getting close to the end of the time. I'd be interested maybe if there's any sort of broad sweeping general advice or specific advice you'd have for the audience based on the experience that you've had.
Really do your work to find a great partner, as you move forward. That really helps you, and helps you make decisions, and putting the time in there really will help you down the road as you move forward with a platform like a ServiceNow. And then, like we talked about, it's just building that relationship out and look for long term, not just for this one piece of this implementation. Because if you look at it, if I have a partner that knows my environment, that can really help you as you look to really grow your investment with a tool like ServiceNow.
Well, selfishly, thank you for saying that as your piece of advice. That I didn't pay you extra for that, but I appreciate it. I think I've as we've talked about your journey and what you've done, Fred. I think it's pretty compelling in terms of, again, I'll go back to the things that we talked about in the last 30 minutes, sort of, understanding the why, building some criteria for measurement of understanding, really engaging your stakeholders, and driving to those outcomes. And that align with your values and the things that you put in place from key business criteria. I think those are a lot of real big reasons why you've had the success you've had. So thanks for doing this. Really appreciate it. Over to you, Caitlin.
No problem.
Thanks, guys. That was really, really fantastic. Appreciate your time. For those of you who are watching, thanks for joining us today. Really, really glad to have you and glad we could share some of this story with you. If you're interested in learning more about this or would like to explore doing some of these projects with us or with ServiceNow or anything like that, we're always happy to talk. You can reach out to us at letstalk@crossfuze.com or find us at our website, crossfuze.com, or reach out to your account manager. With that, we can sign off, and I hope to hear from you all soon. Thanks, everyone.